Just recording. Fantastic. Lanre and Ranti, thank you for joining us. We'll go through the introduction in a few minutes, but also thank you to everyone from across Nigeria who are joining us as well at this kickoff for Nigeria Week. We've got a very fascinating few days lined up ahead of us, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think I'm just going to have a look and just say thank you to a few people for joining us. I'm going to just choose a few names. Adenike, Faberchi, Simon, Sneh, Susie, thank you all for joining us today and being part of this launch of Loeries Nigeria Week. Just before we start into our guests, two very busy gentlemen who we're very grateful to have join us. And we've got our chats that are happening. Susie's sending us a chat as well. Just before we kick into it, I think one of the key things is to acknowledge the period we're in right now. We're in a tough situation. We're in a difficult time with the COVID-19 pandemic, which is challenging all of us across Africa and the Middle East and across the world as well. But during this time, I think one of the things we're seeing some amazing resilience come out. And I think I want to highlight and appreciate the great work that's being done by people from across various categories. You know, we've got healthcare workers who are on the front line who are doing some amazing stuff. You've got people who are in various governments who are working really, really hard. People who are within the retail environment who are ensuring that we have access to food and the basic necessities and the essentials we have. But also in this space, there's a group of people who, as I said, I was chatting to a journalist prior to this, and if we look around it, there's a group of people who've been working really, really hard to ensure society is up to date with the latest knowledge, and that is people within advertising and brand communications. Lanre and Ranti, who are two individuals who are in the space, who have been working really, really hard, and I think we all owe a huge amount of gratitude to individuals like this who, whether it's from home or getting to the offices or wherever it may be, just working exceptionally hard to make sure that we're informed about the decisions in terms of how to stay healthy, whether it's from government, what products are available, whether it's coming from brands or from retailers, or even non-governmental organizations who are giving us advice in terms of where to donate to try and support society through this vulnerable time. One of the things that we're doing as the Loeries also is to try and help society and try and help our industry in this time is to make the entries free this year. So we're 42 years old, and the first time in our 42-year history, we're making the Loeries entries free. And these can be logged on at www.loeries.com. So everyone who's watching this, if you've got great work, our eligibility period is from 1st of June 2019, and we've extended it all the way to 30th of June 2020. We've got some amazing work. Put it in there. We are creating a record for future generations in society. Advertising is a distilled experience of society and culture. What we'll be able to leave is we should leave a strong record for the world to see how Africa and the Middle East and how people across Nigeria have coped with this and what are the distilled experiences that have happened in this time. So please enter and give us those experiences, and let's celebrate some of that great work and work with society together to ensure that this work is part of the legacy of how we learn to actually cope with this. Moving on to our panelists today. So thank you once again, gentlemen. Just to give you a bit of an introduction, I'm sure both these gentlemen are very esteemed in the advertising world and don't need much introduction, but just to give you a little bit, we have Lanre Adisa, who's the Managing Director and CCO of Noah's Ark, a fantastic agency that's doing some amazing work. Lanre has also been a past Loeries judge. We also have Ranti Atunwa, who's a CCD of TBWA concept, and also a past Loeries judge. Gentlemen, thank you so much for giving up your time and being with us today to share some of your experience, and welcome to the Loeries Nigeria Week experience and collaboration that we're working on right now.
Thanks, Preetesh. Good to be here. Great to be here.
Good. You know, maybe if I can start off with Ranti, since I see you at the top left of my screen most prominently there, and you can give me some insights. I mean, this is a strange time. How are you coping with the impact of COVID-19, and how are you finding society coping with this across Nigeria, and as well as within your agency at TBWA Concept?
I think for me well, first of all, thanks Preetesh for inviting me to talk here. It's really an honor. The situation, like you said, is really dynamic. This is something that hasn't happened in any of our generations in a long time. It's a very unique situation, but it's funny how people have responded. I mean, when the pandemic started, when it hit Nigeria, the lockdown happened. There was a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. People weren't sure how to respond to the thing. I noticed during that period, even though there was a lockdown, I was still going out. So what I didn't do was kind of lock myself in the house. I was going out, I was going on the streets, I was talking to people, doing recordings. I put together my own small documentary, which was really interesting. But what I found was the fear was quickly replaced by, and depending on who you talk to, was replaced by desperation for some people. But some people also responded with creativity. So we noticed that on social media especially, people started creating their own things, their own content. We had all sorts of challenges going around that got people involved. I think also just kind of made people deal with the situation a lot better. For me as well, I used that time to start finding out things about myself that I didn't quite even know I had. So skills like carpentry. Yeah, recently I started doing a bit of carpentry myself. So and then
it's a creative outlet. Yeah,
exactly. Even creating content as well. So getting my family, my wife involved in creating content was something that we've had fun doing. Being in the industry, I've worked with a lot of producers to create a lot of TV content and all that, but I've never actually been in front of the camera. So now that is what I'm getting used to doing. And I feel like going into the future, everybody is going to become, and is already happening, everybody is going to become a content creator, having to put themselves out there. I think we realized the currency that social media has, and for a lot of people, they're going to be taking advantage of that. So in a way, some negatives have come out of this, but there are a lot of positives. Working from home. Lagos, everybody knows that the traffic in Lagos is crazy. You spend 2 hours in the morning going to work, 2 hours coming back home. And that's not counting the meetings physical meetings with clients and other partners that we work with. All that has its own stresses or stressors that affects us. We've cut all that out. So you've had people focusing more on being creative, focusing more on their health, on their mental well-being, and that has really helped us do a lot of really creative stuff. Yeah, so it's really both sides of the coin. I'm looking for a situation where we'll take out the positives and learnings from that and then just kind of build on that going forward.
Thank you, Ranti. And I completely agree with you. And I think it's in these challenging times, it gives you an opportunity to discover yourself and discover who you are. But no, Lanre has the additional challenges of being an entrepreneur. And, we don't think about it, but it is entrepreneurship in the advertising world in terms of what you do. So it's not just about discovering yourself, it's about discovering your organization and how things work. How are you coping with the lockdown and the challenges of COVID-19? And how's this experience of being an entrepreneur and a creative entrepreneur been in this time?
Okay, the good thing about being in advertising is it prepares you for challenges. That's what we do for a living. So COVID-19, like we all said, we didn't think it would come this way, but it did come our way. A few days of uncertainty, And after that, we had to adjust to the reality of, hey, you've got to work from home. But like you said, it's a different thing when you also have to manage people, manage resources, and manage expectations more than anything else. We adjusted to working from home. And I must say, at some point, it actually felt like we were closer as a team. I mean, that's what I found, going forward. One of the things we did as an agency was to try and see how we could, because we say in Noazak that we're an extension of our clients' businesses. So for the first 1 week or 2 weeks, we were asking ourselves, if we were the ones running those brands, what should we do now as a business? And so we spent the first 2 weeks or so coming up with some proactive work for our clients, among other things. We were doing all of this from home. And those clients really found that, very, very good for them, that they have partners who could do stuff. But more importantly for me is the fact that we were able to adjust to a new kind of life. Prior to the lockdown, every Friday, for instance, we will have what we call the Acknowledge, which is like our own little TED Talk in the agency.
Right, yeah.
From 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock. And guess what? We haven't acknowledged online since we've been at home as well. Also is as the entrepreneur, you can't just carry on leadership, in the process in terms of different people in the different, because we have more than one agency, we have businesses in PR, so we're coming closer and taking decisions. You have to decide on, how to move on, how to do this and that. So that's been, for me, a very wonderful experience, rediscovering ourselves. Again, back to what you were saying as, hey, let's cut down the budget. Let's slash retainers. Let's do this. So how do you manage all of that in the midst of also managing people's expectations? So, sorry?
Sorry, Lanre, we lost you a little bit there, but we're getting you back. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll say that coupled with all of this also is the fact that you also have to manage the challenges of clients cutting. So it's tough to be an entrepreneur at a time like this, but it's also very interesting because I'm able to find solutions.
Thank you. Sorry, we're losing a bit of the audio. So if you do have any challenges with audio, maybe one of the things is we can try turning off the video for a little while and then try and see if we can get the audio back. And I think this is also one of the challenges. I think as we're going through this as well, Lanre, is that we realize that our networks are just not strong enough. Generally, just it's not strong enough to be able to deal with some of the challenges of having to work from home, and we live in we work in a data intensive environment. The reality is creative work really just needs data to be transferred between people, and ideas generally is very data intensive. And I think that's one of the things that we're also discovering as well. I'm getting a nice few comments. Adenike Adefila. Adenike is a great friend of the Loeries as well. And she says, nice economy skills for Ranti. And Bolaji Alosa says, Ranti has a backup career already. I need to discover mine before COVID-19 wraps up. That is a good point. I think we all need to figure out our backup career as well. Lanre, while we've got you on as well, it's I think getting straight into it. I think Loeries have made entries free this year. This has never been done before. Yeah. I think what is the impact? I think making Loeries free, how is this going to benefit creativity in Nigeria, and how is it going to benefit the ability to highlight some amazing Nigerian creativity this year?
Thank you very much. I think it is bold on the part of Loeries first and foremost to make it free this year. I mean, we've been seeing what's happening in different parts of the world, and some awards are cancelled. I mean, Cannes, for instance, is cancelled for this year. Some are going online, so you still have to pay. I think on the part of Loeries, keeping it free is a good way of ensuring that we can keep creativity going in Africa. And I think the beauty of that also is that for economies that are not that buoyant, the possibility of agencies making multiple entries can be very limited. Now, this allows people to actually express themselves. If you think you've done something really creative, there's a chance for you to share it with the world, and there's a chance for you to be rewarded for what you've done. So I think it's going to be encouraging across Africa, not just Nigeria. And people always feel like, you know what, maybe sometimes they don't get my creativity. Maybe sometimes I can't really show how much I can do. But Loeries at that level, because I know that the standards are very high, and I'm able to break through that and get your work celebrated at the continental level, no matter how small you may be as an agency. I think that is the kind of boost that you need at a time like this. So I think it's encouraging on the part of the Loeries that it's free this year. And I hope people can really, take advantage of that and be part of this celebration of creativity.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lanre. As I said, yeah, the key thinking is to support creativity and ensure that as many people as possible have the ability to enter. And yourself, Ranti, in terms of the Loeries being free this year, what is the impact that you see, and how is this going to positively impact the Nigerian creative scene?
Thanks, Preetesh. I think being at the Loeries last year, what I saw was the Loeries is still about 90%, probably 90, and I'm not 100% sure of this figure, but maybe about 90% South African in terms of both judging and participation. The Loeries being free this year, I feel like it's going to open up a huge opportunity for more involvement from around the continent. In the past, being from Nigeria, even the financial impact of putting in work has always been something that has hindered how many entries we could put in. And I feel like a lot of agencies would feel that pain as well. So it being free, that should open up a lot of opportunities for people to just kind of enter work. We've always had things that we've wanted to enter, but the first thing you always look at is your bottom line. How many things can we enter potentially, and how do we select? What do we narrow down to? How much would it cost eventually? And would we get some outcome from putting in work? It's really important that you win something. In the past, we haven't quite done very well in that regard, but I'm hoping that now people would focus less on the financial investment and more on the work we're going to put in, and then how we put in that work.
Thank you. I'm getting a few questions, and I think what's good is it leads into this discussion, and I'd love both of you gentlemen to have a look at it. And maybe once I read it, Lanre, you can give me your thoughts on this. So it's from Anonymous, and it's a safe place. So if you do want to put your name, I'm perfectly happy with this, but this is a good point. I've judged the Loeries before, and the South African judges in the room do not hide the fact that they were not happy with other countries trying to take over their national award. And I think that affected the outcome that year. What will be done differently now? And I'd love to know your experience. I know you can't speak to this question, but what is your experience? Is this a reality? Do you think that people feel this is a national award?
Well, I've not really had that sentiment being expressed like that to my face. But what I feel is this, if you have to rationalize it, globally, go to Cannes or what have you. I mean, you see a piece of work that's done very well. It's got good publicity around the world. So a couple of people on the jury already know about the work. They're familiar with the work. So in a way, it also affects how you see that work, going forward. Now, if I go back to Loeries now, like Ranti said, naturally, the bulk of the people that will constitute the juries will come from South Africa. It makes sense, right? So they are used to some of the work. They probably even know the agencies that must have done the work. Now, what that means is this. It doesn't mean that in any way they're biased about the work. It means that for you to break through and win, you must do work that anybody anywhere in the world will say, wow, that is some work. I wish I had done it. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, there were pieces of work from outside of South Africa that won last year, from Turkey, from Lebanon, from one or two other parts of Africa. So it means that you have to raise the standard high enough for yourself to say, I'm up against work that has not been seen by this particular jury. So whatever it is that I'm doing must be such that I can break through and get them rooting for my work. So that's what I see. I would not put it down to people feeling a sense of nationalism to say, hey, don't take this away from me. Otherwise, don't open it up to the entire world. You know, I think it's a good chance for you to be at your best. You know, if you can win there, they must have done something right. And I feel good about that. You know, it helps you to raise your standard. Yeah. So when you get on the short list or you win one, you feel really good. And by the way, we won one 2018 anyway. You should know that. We won two, actually.
That's amazing, bro. And Ranti, yourself, what are your thoughts on this
well,
question?
I mean, if I may, and Larry was spot on. I didn't get that sense when I was there. But obviously, for the question to come up, people are thinking of it. People are discussing that. For me, we have our own local awards called Life, and Larry has been one of the pioneers and the people that have been driving that our own local awards. But it's like our biggest and most prestigious awards. But it's still local. I'm envious of the Loeries. We are also looking to expand it, and I think we've invited Ghana right now. Larry can clarify that. But we're looking to expand it. We're looking for a period when we can invite South Africa and even outside Africa, maybe. So for me, it is like Larry said, it's an opportunity for you to improve your standards. Maybe South Africans feel that other countries in Africa joining, and they're not as good as, maybe that's what they think. Maybe that's why they feel that other African countries reduce the standards. I don't know what the sentiment is, but I feel like it's an opportunity for them to improve their craft, improve the standards, so that the Loeries can be as good as, or even better than Cannes. There's no reason why Africa cannot have an award ceremony that is that prestigious. I think it's important that we are really open-minded about inviting other people from outside South Africa to be part of it.
Completely agree. And I think, you know, I'm new at the Loeries. This is my first year, my first 2 months at this organization. And I think one of the things I want to highlight to everyone, and especially to the persons asked, is that you're all part owners in this. You know, the Loeries is a non-profit organization. It's not sitting here trying to generate profit. There's no directors driving fancy cars, none of that. It really is. Our profit is ensuring that across Africa and the Middle East, we have the strongest advertising ecosystem, and we create work that the rest of the world should be envious of. That's what we want to do. And I think I definitely want to highlight from my side is whether the winning work comes from Nigeria or Kenya or Turkey, it's exciting because we're showing that across the region we're doing it. And I think we're all learning from it. We've got our own learning platform right now that the Loeries actually represents. So I hope that this was an isolated incident, or if this was an experience that somebody had. I want to give you my promise as somebody who's leading the Loeries right now, that I want to support every single country that takes part, in every country across the region. And since we're speaking about Nigeria today, I'm really passionate about it. In fact, I was sharing with both the gentlemen prior to this, one of the saddest things about this year was that I could not get a chance to come and meet both these gentlemen in person in Nigeria. I was really looking forward to the opportunity of coming and meeting people and seeing the ads in communities and meeting ordinary Nigerians and asking them, what do you think about this ad that's in your community and that you've experienced, and being at stores and retailers. So what I'm going to do is, as soon as I get a chance, I'm going to be in Nigeria, and hopefully we'll get to meet, and you've all got access to my diary. Let me know, and then if I can come to Nigeria, I'd love to meet all of you as well.
Sure,
maybe going back to it. I'm generally am, and we've. I'm sad we didn't have it, but it's coming. It's coming, and I'm going to do everything. You've got it here in video. You can show this to me again at a later stage. My promise to everyone is I'm going to do everything that I can to ensure that the Loeries supports Nigeria and great work that comes out of Nigeria, and that's my promise to everyone who's watching this right now. I want to know more about your experience as well. So Lanre, tell me about being at the Loeries, judging, being part of the experience. I know you told me you attended about 3 or 4 of the events. What is it like, and tell me about your experience when you're here.
Okay, I mean, thank you very much. I mean, like you said, I had been at the Loeries as a delegate, watching from the hall, from the auditorium, and looking at the work, and it's always been very exciting. So it was a humbling experience to finally get a chance to determine, what gets rewarded, what gets celebrated. And it's something that you hold with a lot of responsibility, because these are people's sweat, a lot of expectations, a lot of work. I mean, this is what we do for a living. So that, I think, was the first and most important thing. And also to know that you are in one big community. We are all in the same creative community. Wherever you're coming from the Middle East, you're coming from Africa, from South Africa, Southern Africa, wherever you're coming from, we all subscribe to the same level of creativity and all that. So, and it was such a very open experience also. I mean, that the fact that you have to be fair to everybody. You have to be fair to every piece of work, and to be able to see that the work that really gets, that gets celebrated, I guess, on the shortlist, meets with, with the highest standard of judgment, as it were. And for me, what I love also the fact that there were some pieces of work from other parts of the world that spoke to even our own experiences, and that showed you what is possible, that, you're not alone in your experience. And, there's a whole lot around you that you could actually use to better society. I remember in particular, there was a piece of work that was entered from Dubai, but the work was done for for Pakistan. The experience was in Pakistan, about missing children using the lorries. And those lorries are all over Africa. They're Nigeria here, all those lorry art, so, these children are missing, and some guys paint on the lorry. And they were able to find about 7 missing children from that experience. I thought that was wonderful, for a paint product, Berger paint. So those are things that give you hope about what you do, because advertising can be very grueling. You come in here, there's a lot of things happening at the same time. So it's only when you see those moments that make you feel good about what you do and give you hope about, where you're headed. So I think for me, overall, meeting a larger community and, and looking at the standard of work and going back reinvigorated to meet your team and say, hey, guys, we can do it. Let's move on. Yeah, that was a good experience for me.
And Ranti, your experience at being at the Loeries and judging, what have you learned? What have you experienced, and working with different people from across the region? How has that been?
Well, for me, it was, unlike Larry, it was my first time at the Loeries. I mean, I've judged a couple of awards before, but the Loeries was, I think, my most prestigious, and it was my first time there. But that being said, I extremely enjoyed working alongside some really, I mean, these are people that we've read about, but we haven't met. I met in the 2 categories I was judging. I was alongside people like Tiki Barnard, who runs the Shared Value Africa Initiative. Gareth Leck is the CEO of Joe Public. Kirsten Nyhouse, she works with Nando's, and some other really smart, creative people. That I learned a lot, just sitting around and talking to them, talking with them while we went through the work, just those conversations. I learned a lot from that. A couple of soft things. The hotel I stayed, it was really nice. The view, there was a beautiful view by the beach that was extremely awesome. This whole stretch of hotels were just by the beach. It was really cool. The student work, there was a student exhibit that was extremely impressive. I talked to some of these people, got their contacts. 1 or 2 of them, I'm working with them currently. So having that represented in Loeries, I think, was really good. Then the whole narrative of pushing authentic African stories, that was something that just kept on coming through. And it was exciting to hear everybody just kind of really particular about that. And when we say authentic, meaning, there's someone that was talking about how in Johannesburg doesn't represent the rest of Africa. Look for stories that are outside Johannesburg, outside Cape Town, outside the cities. The same thing with, and I'll use Nigeria, for example. Sometimes we think Lagos is Nigeria. but there's so much happening outside of Lagos that we can get inspiration from, get tensions, get insights from. So that really opened my mind, my head to the opportunities that are out there. It was a really eye-opening experience for me. And then Larry spoke about just being in the collective of other creatives, other like-minded people. Sometimes creatives can be a bit within ourselves. We can tend to look at things from not all perspectives, but sitting down with people that have all sorts of different views, different mindsets, are inspired by different things, and then just kind of talking to these people. That was a really good experience for me.
Thank you, Ranti.
Yeah.
I know Lanre, as Ranti was basically saying as well about the experience of telling authentically African stories and being able to discuss those with creators from across the continent. How has that experience been? Because I know you've both Noah's Ark on this idea of telling authentic stories that are culturally rooted. And how does it help you when you go into a different platform that the Loeries offers to be able to speak to creatives from around the region and hear about their experiences in their communities? Are you finding there's a lot of insights that you're able to apply again, or there's learnings that you can generate from those experiences?
Well, I think what it just does is validate what you already believe in, because I think most important thing for what we do is that it is relatable to the people. We're not just creating for the sake of creating. And we've seen the value of telling authentic African stories. Even here, we've seen what it can do to brands. We've seen brands that were, that were not reckoned with, that come around because they can change the narrative, and now they can dictate the pace of their industry and beyond their category. So going out there and seeing that being done, it further strengthens your belief in that kind of communication, because advertising on its own, it cannot just make a difference. It must be able to relate with people. It must be able to reflect their world. We were talking about that earlier. At the point in time, people will come back and look at what we've done, and that will be the most authentic chronicle of what we've just been through. I can't wait to see what kind of communication will come from this experience of COVID-19.
Yeah.
How do we tell this to ourselves? How do we preserve this for generations to come? How do we process all of that? And I think it will be down to us. I always tell people something. When was the last time the average man went to a museum or to go see a play in the theater? But you know what? He will see the commercial. He will hear your commercial on radio. He will see your posters, your billboards, and everything else. So we owe it to ourselves to ensure that those platforms, are able to capture, what people miss in most instances. So it can't just be advertising that is just wallpaper or just trying to excite itself. It must reflect their world. And I think for me, those are the kinds of experiences that we were sharing, with other people. Because you look at the piece of work and it generates conversation, and it further, helps you to strengthen yourself in terms of what you believe in as an ad man. Our work is very important, and especially at a time like this, our work is very important. That we're able to excite and inspire people, make them believe more in themselves. And it's not just creating a trust for a brand, but actually also giving them reason to hope for a better life. I think that's what is important.
Completely agree with you, Lanre, and I think that's such a good point, because the experience of advertising is you actually distill the human experience into that 30 seconds or that visual ad or that print ad or that digital experience that people are actually getting. And that's what we're actually recording. Ranti, are you experiencing the same thing? Do you think, what are you expecting from the work that we may see at the Loeries this year from this COVID-19 experience that we're going through as a society?
I hope people have had the chance to create work that reflects the times, but because of the uniqueness of this opportunity, it's I think there's a whole lot that will come out of it. It reminds me of when Trump came into power. If you notice, a lot of the comedians in the United States, even around the world, comedians, talk show hosts and all that, started having a huge amount of content because of Trump being in power. So these kind of global events are always like minefields for creativity. There's so much that you can come out of it, that can come out of it. You know, new products, new ways of communicating, new ways of reaching people, new insights coming out. There's some work we're doing with Ford Foundation called Africa No Filter, where we're getting Africans to tell our own stories. So previously, we've had situations where stories have been told by the Western world. But now we've recognized the fact that we need to tell our own stories. So we work with content creators, artists, fashion designers, painters, musicians, all across Africa to tell their own narratives. What I'm really looking forward to is how this COVID-19 would inspire the narrative that is going to be put out there going forward.
If anyone does have any questions, please remember we've got a Q&A functionality at the bottom of your screen. Please feel free to use it. I've got a question actually for me this time from Bolaji Alasa, who asks, "Hi Preetesh, Joburg is the Lagos of SA. Everyone goes there. Durban really made the Loeries special as it gave it a rounded taste of South Africa. Why the move?" And I think one of the key things is, you know, someday my hope is during my tenure at the Loeries, I'm able to explore holding the Loeries maybe everywhere and anywhere across Africa and the Middle East. Who knows? Anything is possible these days, isn't it? So I think one of the moves to Johannesburg was, if you look at it in a logical progression, Loeries has actually never been held in Johannesburg. I think it was held at the first year. The first year was founded, so it's 42 years old, and in year one, it happened in Johannesburg. And just in terms of accessibility and in terms of the youth, and as Ranti was actually explaining, there's this need to actually get more youth involved and to ensure that our industry is strong. And whether the youth are coming in from Nigeria or from South Africa or from Kenya, wherever, you tend to find that that step of getting people in, and some of the younger creatives, it's a lot easier to get them into Johannesburg. Let's say they're getting them into Johannesburg and then getting them into Durban or anywhere else. So it is into this overall journey. It's you're seeing one step, but it's actually of an entire journey of saying, how do we further deliver on our goals to basically make it more accessible and get more people involved, and especially try and build that next level of talent on our continent, to ensure that that next level of talent has the most accessible way of being able to experience this experience of collaborating during the Loeries itself. So that's why the move to Johannesburg itself. What do you think about this, Lanre, in terms of, do you think this it's a little step easier of trying to get more people involved in the Loeries, getting exposed to what it offers and the learnings that come out of the Loeries?
Well, I think I mean, the Loeries finally is going around South Africa. That's why it seems. You've been in you've been in Cape Town, you've done Durban. There was a particular small community, I can't remember exactly where this was. They used to take it to in those days as well.
Margate, yes, Margate. Yeah,
I remember. Yeah. So excuse me. So I think there's something about I mean, as much as we want to put down the big urban center sometimes, but they have energy. They have, like you said, they also attract young people. And it's important for us in all the countries in Africa to attract as many young talents into this business as much as we can. I mean, there's also unless it's your first time in South Africa and you want to discover South Africa, but really it's a bit of a burden for me to leave Joburg and wait for that flight to go to Durban or wait for a flight to go to Cape Town. I mean, it makes it easier that you can actually one stop, stay in Joburg, do what you have to do, and you can move on. I know that for people in South Africa, they may not probably find that very exciting because the bulk of the industry people will be in Joburg or Cape Town or what have you. So they're looking for a chance to get out of town and do something fresh and do something like that. But for people from outside South Africa, for me, I think it makes a lot of sense to stay in Joburg and do everything in Joburg. If I need to see other parts of Africa, South Africa, I can find ways around that. But more importantly, back to the point of getting younger people to come on board, I think that is something that should be encouraged whichever way. If this can do that, why not? Joburg is there.
And Ranti, and your take on this in terms of the move, I mean, do you think it'll make it a lot more accessible for even more younger creatives from Nigeria to be able to come and be part of the experience and collaboration and seeing this great work?
Well, I mean, I've been to Joburg, I've been to Durban, I've been to both places, and hands down, I think Durban is
Can't beat
Durban
the
is,
sea, can you? I
you
know.
can't, no, you can't. I feel like once you can get people to South Africa, they will make the move wherever. And Larry is right about, for South Africans, Joburg is where they basically eat shit and do everything. Durban is where they go and let loose and relax. And for a creative festival, you want that. You want people to just kind of have fun and chill and relax. And Durban is the place. For people outside South Africa, once you can get them into the country, I think just moving them to some other city won't be a big problem. I know that Cannes didn't always happen at Cannes. I think they moved around a bit, but ended up in Cannes. And most likely it's because of the beaches or something, I don't know, or the beautiful scenery. But Durban for me is a really cool place. I think young people also like that. They're inspired by the place as well. Not just being able to, not just accessibility, but the city matters.
I'm hoping as well that, you know, from the move, and we're still exploring what this experience is going to be for 2020, and look out for that as we go through this process to be able to share this. But I think, yeah, also one of the things is at this point, Johannesburg is also an opportunity for, if you're coming in from Nigeria, it's also an opportunity it's a good meeting spot for colleagues from across the continent. It's an easier place for people to come together and work and share ideas, purely because they're not now trying to move to another city or going, hey, let me go somewhere else. So that was the thinking, and it's going to be a good test to see how this works. Bolaji Alosa says, here he, and Devon we stand. Obviously being to Devon. Actually, Bolaji Alosa also has another question, and I think this is more for all of us, but addressed to me, says, hi again, Preetesh. This year, the year that I judged, there was this philosophy about not talking work down, only up, which affected how judges aired their opinions about work. For example, you can't say outrightly that we've seen this before. It won at Cannes last year. You can only avoid talking about the work, even though you feel it's a ripoff. What's being done about this? And I think this is especially to both of you gentlemen who've judged. What are your thoughts in terms of looking at a piece of work and speaking about it up instead of like negating it and necessarily saying negative things about it? How does the process work for you? And maybe let's look at the overall experience of judging. How do you find that, and how do you find the process of collaborating and disseminating whether this work is making an impact or not?
Well, I think I remember, I'm sure Ranti will remember as well, we had, before we started judging, we had a session, like a little workshop about openness, about, you know, being inclusive and ready to accept, you know, issues and people and work for what they are. And I think in a way it kind of, you know, influenced the way, you know, people receive work. I didn't see anybody talking down anything. Yes, there might be, I think there was a piece of work or so from Lebanon or so, or no, from Dubai. From Lebanon, I think, that we're not so sure, you know, if it had won at Cannes a year before or so, or whether it was really, you know, appropriate for that category. But I think it was resolved in a very humane way, end of the day. But I didn't see a lot of talking down, and I think it was a good thing on the part of the organizers to have had that workshop at the beginning. So the feelings were right, and everybody felt like, you know what, we're here to push the work forward, not to tear them down, as it were. So that was my experience.
Great. And Ranti, anything that you'd like to add on that?
Yeah, Larry is right. That session really set the tone for how we judged. And in my own the two categories I judged, that talking down didn't happen at all. 95% of the time, human beings generally, we make decisions based on emotional reasons rather than rational ones. So we first look at a piece of work and we tend to look at how it makes us feel. I think the work was judged mostly on the merits of you know, the quality, the criteria that was set. And that whole narrative, or that talk about seeing it before, that never came up. That never came up in the categories I judged. I think the Loeries has done very well to set that tone and put a good process in place.
Gabriel Olani-Sakin has a really nice question. In an environment where brands are cautious with money and their spend, especially I think we're going to find that a lot more after COVID-19, how do we move Africa into the new spaces and opportunity, especially in this period? Lanre, what do you think? I mean, yeah, it is tough times, and especially in terms of the communication industry. How do we move Africa forward during this time, and how do we find the opportunities?
Okay, I think, it's a very good question. If you look at where things are, it doesn't stop the fact that a brand must continue to communicate. The budget may be low, but the standards must not go down. And the thinking must always stay up there. Now, it is our job as advertising people to also guide the clients as we do. I mean, to give them the best of our knowledge, to say, look, what's the best way we can still find connection with your people? So it may determine how we go. For instance, one of the things that we've seen is while, yes, people are cutting down, but guess what? Digital is on the rise, Yeah, you can say, oh, you know what, not everybody can go on digital platforms and blah, 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 and all that. But it is on the rise. I mean, the digital guys are actually having their hands full at a time like this. And are there other possibilities, even in terms of traditional advertising? Are there other ways of using radio or TV or whatever, that can still help to keep that conversation going? We will expect to see more of that going forward. A lot of clients are cutting down budget and they still cut down budget. But we must not stop the fight. And I think we had that conversation before now. We as advertising people, we must fight for advertising. It's a global phenomenon. It's not just limited to Nigeria or Africa. Everybody around the world, I've been monitoring stuff on campaign in the UK and all that. Advertising people must speak for advertising. One thing we must let the clients know is this, right? That the moment you stop that conversation, it will have a bad impact on your bottom line. Yeah. And there are studies to prove this. IPA in the UK came up with a study, that said that, look, you know what? If you kept talking during a crisis, you are 8 times better than the guys that kept quiet. And the same thing, if you look at, I think McKinsey also had the same report. So there is a tendency to have a knee-jerk approach to say, hey, just stop everything. But it is not about stopping everything. Maybe you need to reorder your priority. You don't have to put your budget into everything you've done before. Where are the cash cows within your own, your own brand portfolio? Are there other ways of talking to people that can still have resonance end of the day, rather than trying to worry about? So I think also for us as advertising people, we need to get more creative with finding the channels that will make a difference. And if you can prove that to the clients, I bet you, any serious client will take that as a way to go. Yeah.
Thank you, Lanre. Very inspiring. Ranti, your thoughts on this?
And Larry is on point there. One thing that is clear is right now, it's not all brands that know how to navigate the monster called digital and social media and being online. In fact, you will find that a lot of brands still don't have a clue what is happening. What we tend to see is individuals are learning more how to navigate digital. Startups, tech companies also have a bit of a head start, but it is still a channel that is evolving. It is still forming. We're still seeing and trying to discover the potentials of it. Brands especially they have little or no clue. As an ad agency, if you want, and Larry is right, if you decide not to spend, you're going to lose out. What most brands do, what really afflicts them or affects them is, I don't want to spend money and let it go down the drain. I'm not sure how to spend it. If you can partner with brands, advise them, learn yourself and advise them on how to get the best ROI from their advertising budgets, then you're onto something. That means we as agencies need to also improve our skills on learning what channels to use, learning what the audience wants to hear, what they want to see, where they want to consume these things. It's very important that we also just kind of increase and improve our knowledge of all these channels. And Larry spoke about using traditional channels in new and innovative ways. Once we can do that, brands would likely spend. The ones that still decide to hold on to their money, well, whatever happens to them, that's eventually they have their self to blame there.
Gentlemen, we're almost out of time now, and we have other questions I need to answer as well. And we have an amazing packed room full of people, and thank you to everyone who's joined us as well. But I think just considering that we're almost done, I'd love some parting words from you as well. And Lanre, in terms of why people should enter the Loeries and the impact that they can make and the opportunity that they have ahead of them, and just even words of encouragement for people across the Nigerian creative industry during this time, and how can you still keep creating and the impact of their work? Is there anything you'd like to share with us in parting?
Yeah, so for me, I think it's a good thing, like I said earlier, that the Loeries is free this year. And I think it's a good opportunity to perhaps press the reset button as far as Africa is concerned, and perhaps other regions too. The reason I'm saying that is this. When you go out of Africa and you go to Cannes and other festivals, it should not be about celebrating one country or two countries. It should be about celebrating Africa. So we owe it to ourselves. It's not just saying, oh, you know what, it's 90% this or that. We owe it to ourselves as Africans, you know, wherever you are, to see, you know, that we push that African agenda of, you know what, creativity lives here. We're doing great with our music, with film, with all sorts of things. So why can't we push also with advertising to be the best around the world, to really join that conversation? And when I see the Gone report and there's only one country from Africa being represented, that's not good enough, you know? So it is our own challenge, it's our own duty as a generation to say, you know what, we're going to change all of that. And I think this is the starting point. And the only way you can do that is you have to compete with the best. And you know, competing with the best will also give you a chance to say, you know what, we as Africans, we have what it takes to beat the world. So this is your chance to do that. If you've got the work, please enter for these year's Loeries Award. It's free, and there should be no reason for you to hesitate. So I look forward to some exciting work coming out of Africa.
Thank you, Lanre. And Ranti, from you, any parting words and why people should enter this year as well?
Yeah, thanks, Preetesh. So apart from judging last year, I had the added honor of presenting two of the awards so on the stage, which was, I felt like I wasn't the one receiving the award, but I felt like I was, it felt like the
celebrated
Oscars. It felt like the Oscars, and I'm not, I kid you not. But imagine if I was the one receiving the award. Now, this year, I don't know whether you guys are still going to do that, but obviously it seems you're not. But even then, just receiving a Loeries award is, I think there's something really prestigious about it. I would compel everyone to take advantage of the fact that the entries are free. Enter work, gone for winning something. And I will talk to my guys in Nigeria. It is time that we really put our foot down and made a mark at the Loeries. When I was there, there are one or two categories that I feel like I hacked a way to win, and I'll let out a bit of that secret. I think we should consider looking at textile design. That category is not very competitive. Guys, if you're listening, textile design, try and enter work in textile design, and then design generally. What we tend to do is enter work in TV and digital and print. Those categories are extremely saturated, very competitive. My parting words, textile design. I tell you, I kid you not. It would improve your chances 50%. 50%.
I love that.
Nigerians, please.
Okay.
That's so funny you should add, as we're chatting prior to this as well. One of my excuses to come to Nigeria is because I wanted some good clothes, and you're right. It's all about the unique fabric that you're not going to get anywhere else. And one more category that I think can be like really, really strong is in the Instagram Student Challenge. I think from what I'm seeing as well, and the entries that are coming from students in Nigeria, that next generation of creatives who are entering the world as well. Also think about that category, because I've seen so many entries come in, and I think that's also a very, very exciting category to highlight new talent. Gentlemen, thank you once again to everyone who joined us. I mean, appreciate all your time. I think one of the key things is, if you want to find out more, I'm sure you know how to contact these gentlemen, but if you want to find out more, please visit www.noahsark.com.ng or follow Lanre at Lanre Adisa on Instagram to follow more about what he's up to. And also please go visit www.tbwaconcept.com and follow at Ken Atunwa to find out more about things that Ranti is involved in as well. This chat is going to be available on YouTube, so please feel free to view it again, share it with anyone who's missed it. Very, very special thank you to Adenike Adefila, a good friend of the Loeries, who's assisted us and helped us bring this conversation together. And just maybe a bit of parting words from my side is, if anyone wants to speak to me, I think I want you to know this, the Loeries, and as it stands, I'm here to support the Nigerian creative industry in any way that I can. If there's anything that I can do, even in a small way, and even if it means having a chat, please feel free to reach out to us. I would love to have that discussion with you. So let's see what we can do together. We're all in this together, and let's ensure Africa and the Middle East comes out stronger and better out of this pandemic, but also better and stronger for amazing communication going forward. Gentlemen, thank you once again. Appreciate your time. Have a good afternoon, and I look forward to meeting you both very, very soon.
Same here. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Ranti. All the best, and thank you everyone for joining. Apologies if I didn't get to your question, and yeah, look forward to seeing you tomorrow, where we'll be discussing at the same time how to actually enter your work into the Loeries and giving you some additional tips in terms of that process. So same time, midday tomorrow, Nigerian time. Looking forward to chatting to you all then. All the best. Take care. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.